Good evening, everyone. The regular meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District Board of Trustees will now come to order. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, and the time is 6 p.m. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez.
Here.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.
Here.
Homer Flores.
Here.
Shirley Ibarra.
Present.
Connie Prado.
Present.
Gilbert Rodriguez.
Present.
Stacy Alerete.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please bow your head in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight for the betterment of our district. May your goodness and love be present among us today. We ask that you inspire our thoughts and discussions as we work together to ensure that our schools are your schools. May your glory and peace fill this meeting, and may your love and protection cover the children of South San ISD. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Michelle. Before we get started here, some special notes. The board should not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience or individual board members. Persons attending board meetings shall not delay, interrupt, or disrupt the proceedings or refuse to obey the orders of the presiding officer. Any disruption will result in immediate removal of members of the public and possible action of the board to remove disruptive individual board members. The use of cellular phones and sound activated pages are prohibited during the meetings. All participants are asked to be recognized, or wait to be recognized before speaking. Don't see any trustees online. We are all present. Our next item on the agenda is our citizens to be heard. In accordance with District Policy BED Local, the board encourages citizens to make their comments, concerns, and ideas known to the board during the citizens to be heard segment of this meeting. A person wishing to address the board should have signed up prior to this evening's meeting coming to order. At regular board meetings, the board shall permit public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. At all other board meetings, public comment shall be limited to items on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. The SSA ISD board seeks to conduct its meeting in a polite, professional manner and would appreciate citizens' comments being shared in a similar fashion. Each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes per BED local policy. The presiding officer may modify this time at his discretion based on the number of citizens who submitted comments. As well as the board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Our first citizen to be heard is Ruth Rodriguez. Right up here, yes, ma'am. And trustees, I was informed before the meeting started that our timer is not operational this evening, so I will keep the time on my clock, on my phone here. Ma'am, you will have 3 minutes. I will start the timer when you start speaking.
Okay, so I just can't, I've been trying to come to these meetings, and for some reason, I guess there's a rule where everybody has to be here, and it's kind of sad, right? Because I work for a big corporation, and, you know, they see South San in the news all the time. And it's kind of embarrassing. I tell my kids all the time, you know, it's not where you come from, it's how you portray yourself and how you, you know, deal with things, right? Not necessarily where you come from. South San doesn't have a good reputation, and I think our board members not coming to meetings and attending as they should makes it even worse. I get the whole COVID thing. I was in the hospital for 10 days, almost died, so I totally get that. However, I think if you're signed up to be part of the board, there is a responsibility that you guys attend, if not resign, as simple as that. I came here specifically on behalf of my kids. I have 2 that are currently in West Campus, had 2 that graduated at South San. So I'm passionate about both schools, both high schools and elementaries. More so high school because my kids go to high school. Came because I'm always asking, so what's going on with the athletic facilities? What's going on with this? What's going on with West Campus growing? And unfortunately, nothing can be done. I know that this journey started way back when we had a different superintendent. And at that point, the school had been closed, reopened. Whether it was agreed upon or not, it's open. The kids are the ones suffering. The kids are the ones not having the necessary tools to, to do what they need to do as a student. And that's a shame. It really is. I try and lead by example. Working on my master's, making sure that my kids see that, you can come from somewhere low and proceed and be better. People ask me all the time, why don't you move if you have such an issue? I don't move because I want to show my kids that, hey, we don't just give up. We're here and we're here to stay. And, instead of moving out of the area, let's make it a better area. So I'm here just because I want to make sure that West Campus is being heard. I know I'm not the only parent. I know a lot of people are shy, don't want to talk. But please keep us in mind. I mean, I know I pay almost $5,000 in taxes. That's a lot of money. So I would like for some of that to go back to the school. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. The next citizen to be heard is Lydia Carrillo. Thank you, ma'am. And your 3 minutes will start when you start speaking.
Okay. President Rodriguez, members of the board, Mr. Yazgiri, I'm Lydia Carrillo Valdez, and I am here tonight representing South San AFT. A few months back, we submitted a grant request to First Book. It is a national organization supporting schools, which provides books and supplies for students. We asked First Books for $8,000 to purchase books for children to take home after they receive their COVID-19 vaccination. Our request also included books for distribution to other students, as well as books for teachers to use in their classrooms. I'm pleased to inform you that 2 pallets of books arrived today by truck. Other books will arrive in separate mailings. Right now, it's hard to estimate how many books we will have as we get them at a very discounted price. But I can say it will be more than 3,000 to 5,000, well over 5,000 books. The dollar value at retail will exceed $20,000, but we don't have much more at this time. The books are for elementary and middle school students. We're especially excited as we have received many books in Spanish for bilingual schools, bilingual children and classes. I have a list of the titles with me also. Most of the books are from various Disney publishers. If what happens in other districts where AFT has done this happens here in South San, and for many of the students, it will mean they now own their own First Books. Having books at home advances a child's education greatly. So it's a pleasure and to have been a part of building home libraries for students. Thank you for your attention and support.
Thank you, ma'am. That concludes the citizens to be heard portion of the meeting. The next item on the agenda is
Mr.
our
Rodriguez, I
superintendent's
have a
remarks.
point of order, sir.
Ms. Prado, please state your point of order.
Thank you. I make a motion to change the order of the day to move item number 9 under discussion and possible action to our next item prior to the superintendent's remarks.
Ms. Prado, the chair does not recognize your point of order, as I do not see how that is a violation of the rules. Further, the change of order should have been proposed before the start of the agenda, so the members of the public that are present and watching online are aware of the sequence that the Board of Trustees is going to consider items.
Thank you.
So at this time, the chair does not recognize your
Thank you.
motion as a point of order.
Therefore, I make a motion to challenge the decision of the chair. And that's not debatable, Mr. Rodriguez.
Right, so in order for there to be a challenge, the chair first has to make a ruling, and the chair determining that your point of order is not valid, therefore I'm not issuing a ruling, and it's not appealable.
Well, I think a ruling is your decision to
I'm not a
grant it
ruling.
as a ruling.
I, as a chair, as a presiding officer, am not recognizing your motion as a point of order, as is not a violation of the rules. A point of order is specific to a violation of the rules.
Therefore, I'd like to refer to council.
Ms. Rodriguez, by denying her point of order, that is a ruling. Any board member has the right to challenge the ruling issued by the chair. So Ms. Prado's motion hasn't been seconded, but it is a proper motion. And the meeting is live, there's a roll call, so any motion that is seconded is a live motion. It must be dealt with by the board.
I understand your opinion, and I disagree. Again, first of all, legal counsel is not the presiding officer. I understand that the chair didn't seek his guidance, Ms. Prado did. So at this time, legal counsel is not recognized. Everyone here understands that legal counsel is not the presiding officer and does not make a determination on what this board does not do, simply gives advice. So the chair's ruling still is that that is not a valid point of order. You cannot disrupt the flow of a meeting. You should know this, legal counsel, unless there is yes, a point of order is immediately recognizable. However, Ms. Prado's motion is not a valid point of order. We know that a point of order, according to Robert's rules, is a challenge of the rules. And that's not a challenge of rule, that's a motion. So the chair, once again, is not recognizing Ms. Prado's motion as a valid point of order. It's not debatable. I have not issued a ruling. Everyone here should know that that's not a valid recognition for a violation of the rules. I don't know what rule am I violating. Does that point of order outline that we're in violation of? There isn't one. Again, also, the motion itself should have been made before. You've been here longer than I have, Ms. Prado. I've made proposals to change of order. You cannot change the agenda once the meeting starts. Now, if there's an item that comes up that requires us to go into closed session, absolutely. That's an exception. That's by statute. But you cannot move the goalposts in the middle of the game, right? The audience is here. The agenda's been properly posted. We've been over that as well. You cannot change the order of the agenda once the meeting has come to order. That should have been done at the outset, so the public knows what order business the trustees are considering. So again, I understand, and it's noted that legal counsel has given his opinion. I disagree, and I, again, do not recognize her motion as a valid point of order being a violation of the rules. It is not.
And if I may, Mr. Sanchez, I'd like to inject.
Ms. Prado, you are not recognized at this time, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr.
The next item on the
Rodriguez,
agenda is our superintendent's remarks.
I'd like to hear
Mr.
from
Isidro.
legal counsel.
Ms. Prado, you are not recognized. Legal counsel is not recognized. He has given his opinion. It is entered into the record. We move forward. The next item on the
Mr.
agenda is the
Rodriguez.
superintendent's remarks.
Mr. Rodriguez, I have a point of order.
State your point of order, Mr. Ariano.
Yes, sir. Legal counsel has indicated that your ruling is not appropriate for all intents and purposes. So I'm concerned that there's a possible violation of TEA statute and rules. So I ask that you reconsider, and I ask that we allow the monitor to weigh in.
I appreciate everyone here wanting to be the presiding officer with a meeting. I appreciate everyone's efforts to seek advice from legal counsel, as we have in the past, wholeheartedly. Once again, Mr. Ariano, I do not, that you're making the same point of order that Ms. Prado was making. Per Robert's rules, we should all be aware of, is very specific, okay? A point of order should be immediately recognized, and the person raising the point of order cites the violation of the rules. That is not a violation of the rules. On top of that, a change of order should have been done prior to the Board of Trustees moving through the agenda. Again, I don't know how to say it in simpler terms, other than you can't move the goalposts once the game has started. The audience is here, the agenda's been posted. If we were gonna move items around, we should have given the public the opportunity to either make a decision on whether we're not or not gonna be here. Once the agenda has started, everybody's looking at their watches, they got kids at home, people watching. They expect for us to attack this agenda the way it's been posted. So, thank you, Mr. Ariano.
Mr.
We
Board
move forward.
President, I would like to be recognized.
Ms. Ibarra, do you have a point of order, ma'am?
A point of order.
Yes, ma'am.
In the past, we've been in the back room, in a mat, and then we come back out and we change of order. Now, that has happened, and this has been done before,
Ms.
done
Ibarra, would you
after.
state your point of order, please?
You're abusing your power as a board president.
That's not
Yes.
a point of order?
That's my
not a
comment
violation of
is
rules.
that you want to do
Okay.
what you want to do.
Thank you, ma'am. As we move forward, the next
Mr. Rodriguez,
item on
I'd
the
like to be
agenda.
recognized on BE Local, please.
You are not recognized. Legal counsel, you are not recognized. We are moving forward with the agenda as it was posted. The change of order should have been done ahead of time. The
BE
next
local
item on-
does not require. does not
Mr.
require
Legal
it to be-
Counsel, you are not recognized. You are not, as much as your actions have been one of which you want to dive into the daily operations, and there's plenty of correspondence to support that, you are not recognized at this moment. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our superintendent's remarks. Mr. Isaguirre?
Mr. Rodriguez, I have a point of order concerning BE local.
If it's the same point of order,
No.
we move forward.
So I'm going to read from it. Order of business. The order of business for regular board meetings shall be set out in the agenda accompanying the notice of the meeting. At the meeting, the order in which posted agenda items are taken may be changed by consensus of board members.
Does it say when?
It doesn't say, it doesn't prohibit, it doesn't say when.
So again, I do not recognize, you guys are making a point of order, and I do not recognize that as a valid point of order.
But the
I understand legal counsel has given his opinion, I
No,
disagree, it's been noted.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Everybody's
this
here.
is from the, this is
Mr.
from
Adiano.
this is from our board operating
Mr. Adiano, you
procedures.
are not recognized at this moment. Everyone is on the record and has been, and your concerns have been noted. We move forward with the agenda. Our next item on the agenda is our superintendent's remarks. Mr. Isaguirre?
Good evening, South San ISD. I'd like to first take a brief minute to welcome everyone here tonight. I hope that everyone had a restful spring break. I know I did. I also want to take a minute to update the community on a few things that are happening within our district right now. While we approach the final 9-week grading period, here are some of the updates and changes that will be happening at our campuses and within our district. Updates to the COVID guidelines. We've had a less than 1% positivity rate within our district. So we're making some of the changes within our COVID guidelines. One of them would be UIL students will no longer be required to test for participation after March 30th. Masks will be optional in both indoors and outdoors in all school district facilities effective Monday, March 28th. Community labs will not be testing after March 30th. They were going to pull out from the district, so next Wednesday will be the last testing date available for our students and staff. Again, we will continue to monitor the positivity rate and will reactivate any of these safety protocols as we see necessary in case there's a spike in our community. Number 2, attendance is slowly continuing to rise, but still fluctuates every now and then. We're approaching the state assessment season, and it's important that our students are coming to school every day. Our student enrollment registration campaign is underway. We'll have registration sites at different events around the community for families to register their students into our district. We're in full open enrollment right now. Number 4, we're having internal budget and staffing meetings in preparation for the 22-23 school year. Please continue to monitor our website and our social media platforms to get the latest news and updates in our district. Before I close, I want to remind each of us as to why we are here tonight. The purpose of our meetings is to share, collaborate, debate, make recommendations, and finally decide on what's best for our students and our district. School districts across the state are the heartbeat of their community. As you can see here tonight, it is evident that we too are passionate of our community. It is our responsibility to be fiscally responsible while making mindful decisions for the greater good of our students and our community. Once again, it's my privilege and my honor to serve our community as your interim superintendent. God bless each of you, and God bless South San ISD.
Thank you, Mr. Isaguirre. The next item on the agenda is our board president's remarks. And I would only take a few minutes here. First, I'd like to welcome everyone back from spring break. I hope everyone had a restful time away, not only our staff, but as well as our kids, most importantly. And I'm glad to see everyone back and looking recharged as we try to wrap up the school year on a high note. We have a lot of things going on. I know that we are working really hard to re-enroll all of our kids that are currently enrolled. We are in preparations for STAR testing. all the things that are required for our high school seniors to graduate, as well as Mr. Isaguirre, what he mentioned was the preparations for the incoming school year regarding budget, master schedules, programs that we're offering, facilities. So it's exciting to see all those things happening, which is one of the things that I've always looked forward to here in my 3.5 years on the board was all of the collaboration, as Mr. Isaguirre said, that goes into getting feedback and deciding what's in the best interest of kids, right? Because that's what we're here for, collectively to do what's best for kids. So I just want to welcome everyone back, and I hope that we can continue to press forward united to do what's best for all kids. I would like to thank my colleagues for being present today. In light of the well-documented events that have been, or lack thereof, that have taken place to date, whatever the reasons might be, I'm glad that we are here to consider business that has been needing our attention and our consideration since January. So I want to thank my colleagues for being here this evening. That concludes my board president's remarks. The next item on the agenda is our presentation and reports. Mr. Isaguirre.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Our next three presentations are from our finance office. We are required to share and present our monthly financials. As you know, they're reported 1 month into the rear. We have our January and our February financials, and of course, our quarterly February. All the documentation was shared in the board book. You all have copies of it. Should y'all have any questions regarding those financial statements, Mr. Kingman is available for any answers or to any of your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Guides. So regarding the January 2022 financials, will we have a presentation, or there any trustees require a presentation, or Mr. Kingman or Mr. Isaguirre to discuss further or clarify? Hearing none, the February 2022 financials, Mr. Isaguirre?
Yes, so we basically just kind of blanketed. Again, it's 1 month in the rear. We're at the middle of, or towards the end of March. The February financials were due. We have a report. Should anybody have any questions in regard to those?
Board members, any questions regarding the February 2022 financials? Hearing none, moving to item number 3, our February 2022 quarterly investment report. Mr. Isaguirre?
Same as the other two reports. It's one of our standardized reports. It's our quarterly investments where we invest our monies as a district. Those documents were shared within your binder. Should you have any questions, Mr. Kingman should be able to explain.
Board members, any questions regarding the quarterly investment report for February 2022? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which are our consent items. Policy BE Local states that the consent agenda shall include items of a routine and reoccurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion unless the board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. The remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion. Board members, you see the consent items 1 through 10. Before I ask the board members if they would like to pull any items for individual consideration, I'd like to ask the superintendent for his recommendation on the consent items.
Yes, my recommendation is to approve the consent items numbers 1 through 10. Should there be any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Guida. Mr. Isaguirre. Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, at this time, the chair will entertain any items that board members would like to pull for individual consideration.
Mr. Rodriguez, I'd like to make a motion.
Ms. Prado?
I make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations of consent items 1 through 10.
Second.
I have a first and a second by Ms. Prado and Mr. Ariano to approve as presented, but first, I want to make sure there aren't any board members that want to pull individual items for consideration. Hearing none. Michelle, we can get a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Genevieve Gomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yep.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. The next item on the agenda is our discussion and possible action Item number 1, consideration and approval of resolution authorizing the issuance of South San Antonio Independent School District Maintenance Tax Note Series 2022, entering into a bond purchase agreement and paying agent registrar agreement, delegating to certain district administrative staff and officials the authority to approve all final terms of the notes and other matters related thereunto. Before the chair entertains a motion on this item, I'd like to ask the superintendent for his recommendation.
Yes, at this point, it's going to be a presentation first before making any recommendations. We do have a presentation from Mr. Kingman, our Chief Financial Officer, to explain the amounts, the potential occurrence of debt that goes along when taking out a maintenance tax notes. Mr. Kingman?
Good evening, Board President, Board Trustee, and the School Superintendent, Mr. Izagiri. Tonight, my presentation will be about the option and the opportunity for the school district to go out and obtain a new maintenance tax note, the 2022 maintenance tax note. So before I present the new option and the repayment plan for the new tax note, I would like to recap the two maintenance tax notes that we currently have. So as you can see on your screen, as of today, we have two maintenance tax notes in the district. The first one is the maintenance tax note of 2020 series with the amount of $2 million, and the maintenance tax note series 2021 with the amount of $4 million. As of today, we paid $25,000 in terms of principal for the maintenance tax note 2020, and the current outstanding balance for those two maintenance tax note is $5,975,000, and both of them have a 10 years maturity, and they can be paid off at any time. And as you can see, you know, the payoff rate for the series 2020 is from 0.84% to 1.45%. And for series 2021 is 0.86% to 1.83%. So moving on to...
Mr. King, can I make a quick comment on that piece of your presentation?
Yes, sir.
So the total, it's a 2020 series and a 2021 series. We've taken out $6 million.
Yes.
While it's two different calendar years, it's within the same fiscal year, correct?
That is correct.
And our annual payment for this specific tax note is $482,000 a year?
Yes, sir. So, you know, moving on to the presentation,
Okay.
as you will see the repayment plan for the current tax note, but you are correct, for this current year in August, the last day of August, the payment will be $482,801. Okay, so moving on to the purpose of the maintenance tax note, as you can see, the purpose of the maintenance tax note is to repair or renovate existing facilities, equipment, buses, and we have up to 20 years to repay the tax note, and it will be out of the general fund. And the amount of the tax note that we can go up to is up to 75% of the prior year revenue. And you know, with the interest that I present earlier, as you can see, it is a pretty good interest in terms of loan, bond, or debt. Moving on to the first option, which is the first option that the district would like to present, which is a $20 million tax note. As you can see on your screen, the first column is this is a year from 2022 to 2041, which is a 20-year from today. So as you can see, column B is what the repayment plan for the current tax note, which range from $481,000 to $723,000. Is this depend on what years that you're looking at? So credit to our financial advisor, you know, call column C is a repayment plan for the new proposed 20 million tax notes. So as you can see, in the first 10 years, the repayment is less than the last 10 years. The reason that we are doing it, because we would like the total amount between the current tax note and the proposed tax note add up together, and it doesn't change the amount that we have to pay out per year for the next 20 years. So as you can see, in the first 10 years, the amount for the 20 million can range from roughly 900,000, but after the 10 years, it's jumped to 1.2 to 1.6 million. So the total payment per year for the 20 million tax note would be right around 1.6 million per year for the next 20 years. Moving on to the $15 million option, as you can see, the total amount that we pay per year for the next 20 years is right around 1.3 million. And that is just like the previous option. It is a combination of the current maintenance tax note and the new tax note combined. Moving on to the next option, which is the 10 millions, and the total repayment is 1 million per year for the next 20 years, and that would be the combination between the current tax note and the new tax note. The next option is a $5 million tax note for the next 20 years, and the payment would be right around from 6,000 from 500,000 to 800,000. It depends on what years that you're looking at. The last option that the district would like to present is a 5 years proposed maintenance tax note with a shorter repayment plan, a 10-year repayment plan. As you can see, is range about 1.2 million per year if we choose this option. With that being said, I would like to present the step that we need to take to be able to obtain this tax note. So first item that we need to do is vote and approve the tax note, and after that, we will go out to the bond market to lock in the interest rate, and roughly from 45 to 60 days after the date that we approve the tax note, then we can close and receive the money from the tax note to our bank account. That concludes my presentation. I would like to open up the floor for any discussion or recommendation or question.
Thank you, Mr. Kingman. Before the board has discussion, hearing the presentation, board members, ask the superintendent for his recommendation.
Before making a concrete recommendation, we need to consider, what projects, right? We're talking, the reason we go out to go for these maintenance tax notes is because we have issues with our facilities. Back in 2019, the Board of Trustees decided to open up West Campus. We've completed 3 of the 4, possibly 5 phases of the high school. They are currently without a cafeteria, a library, and some dressing areas. That next phase would come at about $4.5 to close to $5 million. That would be the bare minimum I would like to recommend. But on the top end, I would like to have that discussion with the board to see what sort of financial impact the board is willing to take and to risk. But there are several needs outside of the actual high school there at West Campus that require some assistance. Their athletic facilities are subpar. Their dressing areas are subpar. So there's definitely a need there at the campus. If we are willing to open up the school, then we need to be willing to make sure that we support it the best that we can. My recommendation is the bare minimum of the $5 million at this point, but we'll support whatever action the board decides to take.
Thank you, Mr. Isuguirre. Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mr. Ariano.
I make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for $5 million maintenance tax note.
I
Thank-
second the motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Ariano, I have a second by Ms. Prado. Is there any discussion? Mr. Flores, for 3 minutes, sir.
I just have a question for Superintendent. You're saying 5 million, does 6 million, how much is that? How much more is that of a risk or?
Very,
impact?
very minimal. Like I said, the minimum I would like to recommend would be 5. 6 would definitely give us some assistance into our athletic facilities. Not the high end, but at least give our students a fair opportunity, give them a decent facility.
Now, would that 6 million also help with the upgrades and playgrounds that our elementaries are desperately needing?
We would fall short, based on our preliminary numbers. Ms. Sendejo, the total number for our playgrounds was?
Yes, sir. What about 1.2 million, sir?
Was 1.2 million. That would cover all campuses with brand-new playgrounds. So that would be aside from, on top of that.
So would 6.2 be right at the border to where we're satisfying the needs of the campus with the media center, is that right? With the cafeteria, with the possible practice areas and upgrade to the football field that Shepherd desperately needs upgraded? And for the kiddos in our district that need it in the playgrounds at the elementaries?
We would be cutting it close. Right now, we're projecting 4.5 for the Phase 4 of West Campus, which would cover everything inside the building to include cafeteria, library, athletic facility, or dressing rooms, showers, everything they need within the building. The 1.2 would be, or 1.5 would cover the playgrounds. So that puts us at 6. And we have not even addressed the issues outside of West Campus in regards to their practice facilities.
Thank you, Superintendent. I definitely support the need of our kids. As one that has sat in the committee for once before on the facilities and chaired it, I remember the words of some of our principals that said, hey, we want to do all these things, but the playgrounds for my kindergartners or for my first graders need to be addressed. We have new charter schools opening up around us, and they have new stuff, and our kids have old stuff. So I would implore the board to listen to the district that says just a little bit more. And if we can do this in the maintenance tax note, I don't think any of us would say no to get a little bit out of the general fund if we needed to. That's all I have, Superintendent Executive.
Thank you, Mr. Flores.
I have a question.
Ms. Alderete, you're recognized for 3 minutes, ma'am.
Mr. Kingman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Flores mentioned a 6.1, you said? 6.2. What are we looking at in boundary? What is going to keep us in the safe zone?
So, ma'am, just like I present in the previous meeting, the district is facing a $5 million deficit for the general fund without the tax note, the previous tax note, or the ESSER fund, right? So if we take the ESSER fund out of the equation and take the previous tax note out of the equation, we would facing about $5 million deficit per year for the next couple of years. So with that being said, I understand that we have the facility need that we need to address at the district. So anything, I understand that $5 million is the minimum, and I fully support that. But, I would feel comfortable if we go a little bit higher than that. The reason that I said that, because, as you look at the presentation for $5 million for 20 years, the repayment is 6, and from 500,000 to 800,000. My calculation, if you go with 6 or 7, it would not add a significant amount of repayment per year on the tax note total repayment plan. However, on the other hand, we do have the $5 million deficit. So anywhere from 5 to 7 is the range that I feel comfortable with.
And the reason I asked you that, Mr. Kingman, is because I depend on you to shoot it to me straight, whether I want to hear it or I don't. You know, sometimes you're happy to hear what you give us, and sometimes you're not. So hearing that we can go to maybe 7 safely gives me hope that other things will also be addressed besides what was stated. You know, we've seen, those of us who have walked that campus, and there's a huge need. I think our cafeteria seats 40, is that correct? 40? Yes, the number's 40.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have how many students there?
Almost 400.
Okay, and then our showers, we have 2, correct?
That is correct.
For the entire building, 2 showers. So I really hope that as we sit here at the dais today, since everybody's back, that they understand that this is for the kids, and if you're comfortable with that, Mr. Kingman, and that keeps us in a safe zone, then thank you for letting me know that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Alderete. Any other board members wishing to be recognized this first round? I will certainly recognize myself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry? Oh, Ms. Ariano, yes, sir, for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this comes back to Mr. Zaguirre with the $5 million minimum. Are you going to amend that based on what we're hearing now? I mean, what is the bare minimum that because here's the deal, Mr. Kingman, $5 million is a lot of money to be in deficit, not just for 1 year, but for multiple years. So there are decisions that the board has to make that are not easy decisions to make. Can we stagger these out a little bit more? And I agree with Ms. Alderete. West Campus High School must have an updated library, media center, and cafeteria. That has to happen. It has to happen now. But aside from that, are there any safety concerns with the playground equipment that we have currently?
There are some that are older, some that are shared with Head Start, which we're kind of trying to avoid, right, because they're age-appropriate playgrounds. But our campuses do make do with what they have. If you're asking me if it's a safety where we kind of have to tape it up and we're not going to use it at all, we don't have that just yet, but they are bare bones.
Okay. So again, it comes down to not really what can the district afford at this time, but what are the bare minimum that we have to have? Does that include playground equipment?
If we were to list the priorities, obviously mine would be number 1, phase 4, with the obvious need there. Then would be some playgrounds, if we list them in a certain order. Some of them have newer playgrounds than others. If we can give and take a little bit, but we do also have a need outside of West Campus at their athletic facilities. Right now, they're using a shared space, practice space, with softball, soccer, and baseball, I believe. Yes.
Okay. All right, we're having 2 rounds?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'm done with this round.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Ariano.
So, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify that since we are in the $5 million deficit, right, I would not want to mislead the board that we have a safe number. I guess the 5 to 7 million is a number that we are comfortable with. But obviously, if you are in the deficit, there's no safe number. But I understand that the district has the facility needs that we need to address. And, you know, it would take an effort of everybody to be able to afford whatever the number that we decide today. But because of ESSER fund, you know, it does exist. So we do have an option for the next couple of years to catch up. So that's the reason why, you know, I said that I'm comfortable with the 5 to 7 million, but it's not a safe number in terms of like, it's nothing gonna happen.
Right.
It's
There's,
a number
yes,
that we can work with.
Right. At some point, we're going to have to address the $5 million deficit. That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Kingman. Any other board members wish to be recognized this first round?
I have a question.
Ms. Prado for 3 minutes, ma'am.
Mr. Kingman, the $5 million deficit that we have is from the 2020-2021 tax maintenance.
If we take that out, and if we take the ESSER out, basically you look at the district as the operating machine, that is the number that I'm talking about. So it's not related to the tax note. Now, obviously, as you can see in the budget, right now we have a $3 million deficit for this particular year, but because I moved $5 million to the ESSER fund already, and because with the tax note that we have from last year and this year, that's why you see the $3 million. But if you take the tax note out of the equation, you take the ESSER out of the equation, just look at the district of how we receive the money as revenue and how we're spending the money without any additional help or additional project, that would be the $5 million deficit that I'm talking about.
And with the proposed tax notes for tonight of $5 million, how is that going to impact the deficit?
So as you can see that, whatever the payment is on column C, that would add to the deficit if nothing changes. However, obviously that is the theory, correct? Because in reality, we do have the ESSER fund. So in reality, we do have some time to be able to catch up with the deficit. So if you, again, in the theory that the ESSER fund, we don't have it, then, for example, if you look at the $5 million for 20 years, for the next 10 years, it would be $5.2 million deficit if we go out for the tax note. However, because of the ESSER money, most likely we will not feel it in the next couple of years because of that.
Right. But we also have to remember that we are in the process of a budget workshop that we have to start working on. That means looking at pay compensation, employee pay raises if possible. We want to be able to do that and without adding to the deficit. So we really have to stop and look at, tonight, I understand. $5 million, I think that's great. If that's what we can do, and it's not going to impact our deficit more, or at least not right away, I think that's better, only because we have to look at pay and compensation. Employees are going to want pay raises. Teachers deserve it. So we need to have that extra cushion. And by keep adding to the deficit, it's not going to help at the end of the budget year. So I think Mr. Isagida's recommendation of $5 million is something that needs to be done. We promised West Campus that that the building would be complete, and this will complete that promise. So I think, yes, the kids need playgrounds, absolutely. Let's look at our general fund balance. You've done very well in making sure that we have that 3-month operating fund at the end of the year, at the end of the budget year. So we may have a little cushion to be able to replace all the playgrounds, because there's some schools that don't even have playgrounds. Athens doesn't even have playgrounds. So yeah, there's a need, but we also have to look at other issues that are coming up. And my issue is insurance. We have to look at that still. Employers are not happy, and how much is it gonna cover? And then we also have to look at pay raises for our employees. So there's a lot of, balances we have to look at here. So I think, I know you're proposing we could go up to 7, but remember, we have the budget coming up. And those are just comments I wanted to make.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. Any other board members wishing to be recognized in this first round? Hearing none, I will recognize myself for 3 minutes. Oops. First, I want to thank my colleagues for considering this item. Certainly, Mr. Kingman and the team have done a tremendous amount of work. Certainly in the last budget committee meetings that we've had, we've gone over these tax notes. And, Ms. Prado makes some valid points, but I also want to add to her comments that, one of the first things that I had the privilege of being a part of when I came onto the board was being the budget committee chairman, right? So I learned really quickly what the difference between one-time costs and reoccurring costs are, right? So these one-time costs to get our facilities, in this instance, what we're talking about, up to par where it becomes more attractive. And most importantly, I don't know if board members here have been out to the athletic facilities at West Campus. I'm glad that we're addressing the academic needs inside the building. It looks like we have a consensus that that needs to get done. But I think I've invited board members out previously to take a stroll out there. And I don't think any board member here would want your child to be running track on that track that's out there that's shared with Shepherd Middle School, right? Our baseball team doesn't even have a practice field. Neither do the softball girls, neither does soccer. These are all, shared facilities between the middle school and the high school. So for me, and I think I sent an email way back when I was sending emails to TEA before y'all told me to stop, about me as a parent, that I had a concern about the safety concerns that are out there at West Campus High School regarding the athletic facilities, because I think we all are in agreement that, academic success goes hand in hand with athletic success. I mean, they're both building character, they're both setting our kids up for success, and how to be resilient, how to move forward, how to be teammates, how to be good people, how to be good citizens. All that encompasses is taught in the athletic classroom, so those are classrooms as well. Now, I know we've had discussions about dreaming big, being bold, and yes, can we build a stadium? Obviously not. But I implore this board to consider a little bit more so we can at least get those kids out there. And this isn't gonna only benefit West Campus, it's gonna benefit Shepherd, right? Now, we're in the middle of enrollment. We talk about our ADA and how all that drives revenue. It should be, I revisit back when Ms. Prado and I were campaigning for me to get elected about build it and they will come, right? I think that still applies. And Mr. Isaguirre, along with Ms. Sendejo, just sent responses to these new charter schools that want to come up in our area and how we're opposed and what we're going to do to be better and be competitive. So I would ask this board to be a little bit more bold and a little bit more aggressive and just add a little bit more so we can tackle all these needs now, right? Before we're paying attention to the news, these rates are going to go up. And I'll save the rest of my comments for my second half. At this time, I'll recognize board members for a second round on this item for 3 minutes. Ms. Alderete for 3 minutes, ma'am.
I'm glad that you brought up the academic portion of athletics. I know that, South San has some pretty big teams and they're out there practicing and doing their thing. And they do an amazing job at what they do in their sports. But at the end of the day, West Campus has to wait until all of those teams are done to practice. And by the time they get home, it's late. And it's not fair to the child, and it's not fair to the parent. And testing's coming up. And not only that, but those fields are a safety hazard. They are absolutely a safety hazard. It's broken, it needs to be fixed. It isn't a want, it's a need. And just as we concentrate on early college and how do we get these kids in there and how do we get them to perform and how do we get them into these programs that we offer, it's the same thing for athletics. They have to be passing to play. And when you show a kid that they don't mean as much, they're not gonna try as hard. And it's our duty to show them that they do. So I encourage everybody to think outside the box. We all have a responsibility to these children and absolutely to be fiscally and financially responsible as well. But I depend on my CFO who is the professional here. At this point in time, he has given us a bracket of where we can be between 5 and 7. We can cut down, maybe narrow down what schools first need a playground and, build at that. But we really need to get to work here. We've been out since December. This would already all be done. How do we just come to the table? And now we're playing catch up. So I implore everybody here today to take a look at that and do what's right by these children and these families. Thank you. And that's to include South San because they're pressured to finish early too.
Thank you, Ms. Alderete. At this time, any board members would like to be recognized for a second round?
I do. Go ahead, Mr. Flores.
I will recognize Ms. Prado for 3 minutes. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on your comment about these renovations that are going to be made at West Campus, finalizing the cafeteria and the media. this is just a one-time cost. Well, absolutely not. This is not a one-time cost. This is a debt that we will be having to pay for the next 10 or 20 years. So the monies that are being spent on these facilities is not a one-time cost. It's paid upfront one time, but then the district now has to pay the debt for the next 10, 20 years. So it's not a one-time cost, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. Any other board members for a second round on this item? Mr. Flores for 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Kingman. So on this maintenance tax note, I guess for the public to understand, it's a loan. And
Yes.
it's scattered, like Mr. Ariano said, it's scattered. So it's not something that's a lump sum impact on us. It's going to be scattered to, like Ms. Prado said, so many years, right?
Yes, sir. So basically, the maintenance tax note is basically a loan. We get the money upfront to do what we need to do, but the repayment plan would be from 10 to 20 year. I mean, from 1 to 20 year. It depends on whatever year, whatever numbers of year that we decide to do it.
All right, well, first of all, I just want to say, thank you for recognizing me, Mr. President. So I just want to say that saying no is not an option for me as a board member to this subject. To increase a maintenance tax note capacity means that we have a chance to not fight on who the pecking order is for the elementary principals that need a playground. You know, it's going to be 1 versus 2 or 1 versus rank 9. No, it should be about our South San ISD kids in need of something that's going to benefit them all. They don't need to fight, right? We don't want to be in that tangle deciding who gets what first. But I will say this too. It becomes a selling point when we have upgraded facilities. If it's not just for the middle school and high school, we have our foundation, which is our small kids, which are in the 400s or 500s. Those are the ones that we should be attacking also. It becomes an arrow in their quiver and an attraction to sell and compete against the charter schools. And hopefully, we're not just in some kind of doldrum where we're thinking that we're in a shortfall when the answer to a lot of this might be here. That we can increase enrollment and have gains. If it's just 1 or if it's just 2, how much of that impact on ADA comes from it? And we're not so sad about we're losing and we're gonna lose this and we're gonna lose that. The answer is almost like right here, and I think it's especially on the board members that hadn't showed up for a while, but it's on their things and they can hold it and they can look at it, gives them a lot of ideas. And I know that with the increase, it can help. What I'm going to tell you also is that I'm a reformed board member. I'm reformed because I learned that athletic facilities, playgrounds are outdoor learning spaces. I never heard of that until I was told in a facility committee meeting that these are spaces where the kids can be supported. They're outside, but they're outside learning spaces. And I never thought of ever heard of the concept, but I gravitated to it when I learned that it's going to help our kids. So you're talking to a board member that's not going to say no, and all our principals are sitting there. I'm on your side, all right? I just want to let you know I am on your side. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Any other board members wishing to be recognized on this second round for this item? The chair will recognize himself last, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Ariano, yes, sir,
Yeah.
for 3 minutes.
So thank you. Thank you for the passionate speech, Mr. Flores. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. But the fact of the matter is, we have a $5 million deficit. Not 1 year, but multiple years. So we have to be very careful, very judicial with what we're gonna put as maintenance tax notes, because every dollar that we put into a maintenance tax notes puts in jeopardy a possible bond, when we're gonna do a bond, if we're gonna do a bond, because we could put together a great bond 5 years from now. But if banks don't wanna give us the loan because we have so much debt in maintenance tax notes, it's gonna be difficult for us to get that bond. And to solve a lot of the issues with the rest of the district's infrastructure, we're gonna need a bond at some point. So we have to be careful. So the best way to be careful is to do what the superintendent is recommending for now. Can we, let me ask a question. If we do the $5 million minimum right now, does that prevent us from coming back to doing another maintenance tax note after the budget cycle is done and we know what our numbers are gonna be next year?
No, we can definitely come back. Is it depend on the situation, the financial situation at that point? It's all about the repayment and the financial health of the district as a whole, right? So, the situation can change or in the future, but I think we can go back and do that.
Okay.
And I would like to make this one comment. So, the tax note is basically an investment, right? And for the district, everybody get a loan, but it's not a loan for mortgage or anything like that. It's an investment for the district. So come with the investment is come with risk. Is this about, but then it also bring in the reward. So I think, it's just about what kind of risk that we're willing to take with the potential reward that we know that the increase in enrollment is the potential reward. Let's talk about the
Okay.
risk over
Yeah.
here. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that explanation. So, doing the $5 million right now will take care of phase 4, for sure. We go through the budget cycle, we figure out what is our ADA, what are we projected to get next year? And then we come back as part of that and see if we can do another maintenance tax note for a more specific purpose. For West Campus athletics, for practice facilities, for the playgrounds. But after we know what our situation is, after the budget workshops and everything is done. I don't see that as a big issue. But the one thing that everybody here agrees upon is that phase 4 must get done. I wouldn't want my kid to be sitting around waiting to get in line, go get my lunch at West Campus, and then just walk around eating with a plate in my hand because I can't find a place to sit. So let's get this done so that we can get phase 4 done, and then we'll tackle the rest of it after the budget cycle is completed and we know exactly where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ariano. Any other board members wishing to be recognized for a second round on this item? I will certainly recognize myself for 3 minutes. Again, I appreciate the debate. I appreciate the conversation. I think it's been long overdue, like Mr. Flores said and Ms. Alderete said, as everyone has seen. But just a couple of points that just stuck out to me. For a minute there, when I first came on board, just the complacency with the school district and the leadership was just eating away at me. And it's starting to eat away at me again. One of the last tax notes Ms. Ariano mentioned to me after the meeting was, maybe we should have got more because the rates were so good and we can get a lot done. Maybe we should have got more. Well, we have an opportunity now to do more, right? And, we talk about the deficit, and certainly the budget workshops will address all of that in collaboration with our superintendent. But I have a hard time understanding the hesitancy in investing in our kids. I don't understand why we're not we all sat through our visioning, we all sat through our values and being bold and being aggressive and being competitive. Most importantly, I think everyone here remembers, I know Ms. Prado and Mr. Flores surely do, about during one of my very first meetings, and I said that we were gonna fight for our identity. Well, this is one way that we do that, because this isn't just about West Campus high schools or our individual elementaries, this is about our school district. And what are we gonna do to seize the opportunity we have right now in front of us to become more competitive? To show not only the community and our competitors around us, but I think that, us not meeting, it's the very same agenda. It is the identical agenda. We have an opportunity as this board to save face to some extent with our staff, with our kids, with our community members, that we are gonna wanna go out and get their support for a bond. Mr. Ariano mentioned not wanting his child in that long line at the cafeteria. Mine are in there every single day. And mine are also out there on those fields every single day, along with the Shepherd kids. And it is a travesty, guys. It is a safety hazard. I don't think anyone here can tell me that they've been out there and walked around on that track. I mean, if I oppose it, I wouldn't want to be out there either because it's staring me right in the face. It's a travesty to those kids. And if we're sitting here debating a couple $1 million to address all of these needs, I don't understand the hesitancy. I don't understand the shift back towards being complacent where we're here and charged with fighting for the identity of our school district and most importantly, being competitive. And I can assure you, that's going to drive up enrollment. That's going to drive up our ADA. That's going to stop these transfer requests because we don't have adequate athletic facilities at West Campus, guys. It's not about one campus. It's not about one side of the school district. It's about the school district as a whole. We have an opportunity here to seize it, seize the future together, and get this thing done. Thank you. I think you went twice already, right? Yeah. Okay, so that ends the second round on this. Yes, before I recognize, Mr. Flores wants to be recognized for a substitute motion, but first I want to afford Mr. Arellano the opportunity to amend his motion if he would like to.
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Arellano. I believe Mr. Flores has a substitute motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we raise the maintenance tax notes recommendation to 7 million. And that would encompass everything that we need to do at the discretion of the superintendent and his team to take care of everything.
I have a substitute motion by Mr. Flores. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Alderete. Then the chair will allow discussion on the
Mr.
substitute motion.
Rodriguez, real
Yes, sir.
quickly, I just want clarification that this vote is about Mr. Flores' substitute
Correct.
motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So we'll do one round of 3 minutes on this substitute motion. Who would like to be recognized first? Ms. Alderete, yes, ma'am, for 3 minutes.
I think it's just, it's very clear here in what we need to do as a board. We have an opportunity here to seize the moment. Our children need to come first, and there's no other explanation other than travesty out there. And also the little ones needing the, I can say in my corner, I think every campus needs a playground. Five Palms has probably been there as old as my last kid is. Madla doesn't even have one. Neil Armstrong is a mess, right? And the 5 that you're proposing, or has been proposed, it's just not gonna cover it. And it's not wants, it's needs. Those kids need these things, these outlets. They need these opportunities. And I cannot stress enough, if you have not been out there, it's easy for you to sit here and say, well, you don't need it right now because your kid ain't out there. And you probably don't even have a kid here. So that's it, I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Alderete. Mr. Flores for 3 minutes? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I made that substitute motion because, one, I know Mr. Arellano doesn't agree. He says he does, but he doesn't. And I want to say maybe if he did back in January, February, they'll be showing up to meetings for these exact agendas. But I do want to say this, is that I challenge the board members that probably do not have an athletic bone in their body, that I'm one of House Bill 72 student. Back in middle school, when it was initiated, I had to pass my classes to play. And that still stands now. So for the kids that have to get bused and have the late practice and have to show up early the next day for school and maybe an early practice, those that are athletically challenged on this board don't know that because they've never experienced it. So know the difference between what you think is right and what actually is happening and what's going on. Be a board member that says, hey, you know what? I'm not going to question what's good for me. What's good for the kids? We recently went to a governance camp, which Mr. Arellano attended, and on the back of these, somebody cleverly put children first, so that when the name is pointed forward at them, at the whole time that they're at a board meeting, it says children first, or it says student first. That should be the number one reason as to why you're sitting up here. For some of us, we were honorably elected. And for some of us, if you're saying in 5 years it's gonna happen, you probably won't be around because you won't be reelected. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. I will certainly recognize myself for 3 minutes if there are any of the board members on this
Mr. Rodriguez, I
substitute
just
motion.
have a couple of,
Mr.
comments.
Ariano,
Yeah, I'm
for
not
3
gonna-
minutes, yes, sir.
Thank you, I'm not gonna dignify any of what Mr. Flores said with a response. So, let's just, be clear. We have it's, nobody is saying that we're not gonna tackle the other issues. Again, just for the last time, I'm gonna say, we're taking care of phase 4 now. We'll take care of the rest of it as soon as the budget cycle is over. When will the budget cycle complete?
We have to have a budget ready by the end of August for the 1st of September.
So then we will tackle that somewhere between July and August when we start getting the numbers. So that is not complacency, that is judicial. That's us. The number one thing that the TEA puts on boards, other than academics, is financial health of the district. We cannot put that in jeopardy. We cannot come back later and have to be dipping into the fund balance to pay interest on our debts. And I will not, no, that's not gonna happen. Not as Mr. Rodriguez likes to say, I'll borrow one of his things, not on my watch. That's not gonna happen. So it's just a little bit of being careful with what we do and how we do it and the sequence that we do it in so that everybody's taken care of when it's time to take care of them. Nobody is saying that we're gonna abandon the kids at West Campus for South San or the other way around. This is one district. We need to make sure that we are careful with our money. That's bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ariano. Any other board members wishing to be recognized? I'll take 2 minutes here out of my 3. No, I completely agree, and I think some of us might not be quite up to speed on, after every budget committee meeting, I asked the superintendent to forward all the documentation to board members so they can be in the know, right, without having to seek it out. And the meetings that we did attend before we started not showing up, outlined our fiscal health as good. Our credit rating went up. At the budget committee documents that you guys have been sent, outlined, even from our financial advisor, one that was good, including, like Mr. Ariano said, our future bond capacity, right? All of that stuff has been addressed and discussed, and has been shared out with board members. So I think maybe, not that we have time to do it now, maybe going back and revisiting that would bring a little more clarity as to our financial posture, and our ability, to do this now. So, I'm of the opinion that this needs to get done. And if it's in front of you now, and certainly I understand the approach of, since being the budget committee chairman now for probably 95% or 90% of the duration of my tenure here, understanding what the budget process is like and what all that encompasses, and paying compensation plans, certainly the pay increases that we want to consider for our employees, our health plan coverage like Ms. Prado, those all have been ongoing discussions. But at the end of the day, if we don't invest in ourselves, who's going to come and save us? Or are we just going to give away ourselves to a charter? But I think this board adopted a resolution when we first got elected that we were not going to do that we were going to compete. Here we are. You're getting called in to get into the game now and get in there and make a play. Who's going to do it? We need you now. I need you in there now to get in there and make a play. Who's going to do it? We need to do it because our kids are depending on us. Thank you, board members. There is a substitute motion by Mr. Flores, a second by Ms. Adrete for a $7 million bond going out for maintenance tax notes, rather. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez,
No.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
No.
Homer Flores,
Hell yeah.
Shirley Ibarra,
No.
Connie Prado,
No.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
Motion fails. We're back to the main motion. There was a motion by Mr. Ariano, And a second by Ms. Prado on a $5 million maintenance tax notes.
I would like clarification.
Clarification from Ms.
Clarification on, they were going at the recommendation of the superintendent. Are you still at the recommendation of 5 million only, Mr. Izaguirre?
At the minimum of 5 million.
Minimum. Thank you.
Thank you for seeking that clarification, Ms. Alderete. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Wait, if I can interrupt.
Yes, sir.
Does the motion have to, because I know we proposed 5 million in a 10-year note and a 20-year note. Do we need to be clear, as Mr. Martinez can answer that? Do we need to be clear on that motion on which one
Yes,
we're going to
we-
pursue?
Yes, we do. I mean, like, I would like to seek advice from Mr. Martinez, but I would think that we do.
I think because we have a parameter authorization, whatever the board deems the best financial option for the district, I think based on the recommendation of financial advisor, we have a parameter. We can say in the parameter that an amount not to exceed 5 million, but the best term available based on pricing and advice of the financial advisor. So we have that flexibility.
So clarification once more, I'm sorry.
Ma'am?
So you're saying the minimum, and he's saying in between so we can stay within. So does that mean they only go out for the 5, or we talked here between the 5 and the 7? Does that fluctuate in between?
Nobody's saying that we don't exceed the 5 million.
Okay, thank you.
I think if I may, Mr. Rodriguez, I
Ms.
think the
Prado?
question on the table is the 5 million based on a 10-year note or a 20-year note?
Because that's going to be a different payment yearly. So we need to be
Right.
clear now, because it could impact us as we're making that payment every year.
Mr. Martinez, I think the question is, when we make the motion, do we need to say the prepayment term with the motion?
Well, excuse me, let me take a step back. I apologize. I didn't recognize myself properly. President Rodriguez, members of the board, interim Mr. Izaguirre, and Dan Martinez for the record. Let me clarify, you did state that correctly. It is for a maximum par amount of 5 million. The question is, how far do we want to extend the term? And you did state correctly as well. If we extend the term out further to 20 versus 10, that will definitely impact the financial, the payment annually to the district. So the question is, as presented, Mr. Kingman gave you 2 options and how that debt service would look. The question is, if you want the longer term, please state that in the record so we can make sure when we go out to pricing that we do achieve the longer term. Or an alternative, if you want to limit that term, if you could please state in the record as well. Being that we're not sure what that pricing would indicate, I think we might want to have maximum flexibility depending on how the board wishes in terms of the potential financial impact to the district.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. Does that clarify?
Board President, I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Ms. Alderete, I think
You're
Sorry.
I
recognized,
was
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
recognized.
You're
Thank
recognized.
you. So I guess what it boils down to is, Mr. King, what is your recommendation?
So my recommendation would be the longer term,
The
ma'am.
20-year?
Yes,
Okay, and that has to be said in the motion.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Mr. Ariano?
So yeah, I'll amend my motion, Mr. Rodriguez.
But real quick,
Yes.
that's you're in agreement with his.
Yes, because that gives them some flexibility. There's no penalty to
Okay.
pay it sooner,
I just want
correct?
to make sure the recommendation came from the superintendent. And
Right,
Yeah.
not for.
Yeah, and there's no penalty, correct, Mr. Martinez, for paying it sooner?
It depends on the market conditions. Again, when we did the prior tax notes, folks, we did it on a private placement basis. However, this particular financing is scheduled to go out on the markets. And so the market, when you go to the market, you generally don't have as much flexibility in terms of the prepayment options. Usually you'll have like a 10-year call or first opportunity to refinance them or pay it off just based on going out to the market. Again, the idea of using the negotiated sale going to the market is based on how Mr. Keenan showed you a couple examples. Your financial advisor had structured it to where it's kind of level debt service. And you're able to do that by actually, you're more able to be more flexible by going out to the market and achieving that particular type of structure. And so your financial advisor created those typical, those specific types of structures that were presented. So again, it wouldn't necessarily be callable at any time or payable at any time like we have in the other private placements that we do have currently, that 4 million and 2 million. This would probably be more of a 10-year call, meaning a 10-year payment option if we do go out for 20 years, because that's more standard, if you will.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. So, Mr. Ariano, would you like to amend your motion, sir?
Yes, make the motion to be now that, that it would be a, $5 million note, for a maximum of 20 years, at the discretion of, whatever the pricing that we can get. That, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ariano. I have a motion by Mr. Ariano. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Prado.
The substitute motion.
I have a substitute motion by Ms. Alderete.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we go out for 6 with the understanding that we seek the 20-year, if we're able, agreement.
I have a motion by Ms. Alderete for a 6 million over a 20-year plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Flores. Michelle, if we can have a roll call on this substitute motion, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez,
No.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
No?
Homer Flores,
Absolutely, yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
No.
Connie Prado,
No.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes,
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
motion fails. Back to the main motion by Mr. Ariano on a $5 million tax note over 20 years. There was a first and a second. Michelle, if we can have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes,
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Mr. Isaguirre and Mr. Kingman and team. The next item on the agenda is our West Campus High School Phase 4 proposal with PBK Architect. Before the chair entertains a motion on this item, I will pivot to our superintendent for his recommendation.
Yes, so the recommendation is to approve PBK as the lead architect for the project of Phase 4 for West Campus High School.
Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Alderete.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation as presented.
Second?
I have a second by Mr. Ariano. Any discussion?
I was gonna say, it has to be identified before yelling out.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to the next item, number 3, discussion and possible action to approve the maintenance tax notes 2022 project, Phase 4, West Campus High School. Before the chair entertains a motion, I would ask Mr. Isaguirre for his recommendation.
Yes, the administration's recommendation is to approve using the maintenance tax note Series 22 specifically for Phase 4 at West Campus High School.
Hearing the superintendent's recommendation, I will certainly make the motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to allot the $5 million tax notes for the Phase 4 at West Campus High School.
A
Second.
I have
second.
a second by Mr. Flores.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, if we can have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes,
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to approve the maintenance tax notes 2022 project, West Campus High School Athletic Complex renovation. Before the chair entertains a motion on this item, I'd like to get a recommendation and some feedback from our superintendent.
Yes, Mr. Board President, I'd like to table this item at this particular time for the lack of securing the funds for this project.
Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, I will certainly make a motion on this item. I move that we table the item for West Campus High School Athletic Complex renovation until or to the September 2022 regular meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Alderete. Is there any discussion?
A point of clarification, Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes,
on
sir.
that motion?
Yes, sir.
I'm concerned that that you may be tying our timeline to not being able to look at that before September.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Ariano. I appreciate that. My objective was we were talking about the budget process and where we're going to land after we adopt the budget on August 31st. My guess is that the intent of board members, when they were speaking to that, was that we would not consider that until after the budget was adopted. If I'm not understanding that correctly, then I would certainly like to clarify that from you guys.
We can leave it like that, but that gives us no flexibility in case the budget process gets done faster and we know earlier. So I would ask to reconsider to make it a little
Okay.
bit more flexible.
I will do this. I will go on the record and saying I will amend my motion. Thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Ariano. I completely agree. If we can do that earlier, then I would like to do that. But just know, board members, wherever these board officers shake out at the end of this meeting tonight, I will be submitting an agenda item request for this to be brought back to the board for consideration. So I will amend my motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation to table this item. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Flores. Discussion by Mr. Flores for 3 minutes. Yes, sir. No discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Genevieve Gomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores.
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to item number 5, discussion and possible action to approve the maintenance tax notes 2022 project for the SSA ISD Athletic Complex renovation. Before the chair entertains a motion, I'd like to ask the superintendent for his recommendation.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Same as the previous, until we secure funds, I'd like to table it for further discussion down the road. Table it.
Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, the chair will entertain a motion on this item.
I'd like to make a motion.
Ms. Alderete,
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
I have a motion by Ms. Alderete. Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Flores. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Genevieve Gomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, board members. Moving on to item number 6, discussion possible action to approve the job order contract procurement method for West Campus High School renovation Phase 4. Before the chair entertains a motion, Mr. Isaguirre, would you provide a recommendation, sir?
Yes, we recommend that we approve the job order contract procurement method for West Campus Phase 4. To give an explanation on that process would be Mr. Rocha, our Director of Purchasing. Should we have any questions about that procurement method?
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez, members of the board, Mr. Izaguirre. The board policy CV local states that prior to advertising any construction that will exceed 50,000, the board shall determine the construction method, the construction delivery method. And after reviewing the project proposed, it's recommended the school administration is recommending that the job order contract method be recommended.
Board members, thank you, Mr. Rocha. Board members, hearing the superintendent's recommendation, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Ms. Alderete,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as presented by the superintendent.
I have a motion by Ms. Alderete. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Ariano. Any discussion? Here-
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
didn't hear Mr. Isaguirre's recommendation. He just referred it to Mr. Rocha.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I thought I said to approve the job order contract procurement, and should we have any questions about that procurement, Mr. Rocha would be able to answer those questions.
We have a motion by Ms. Alderete, a second by Mr. Ariano. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, if we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Genevieve Gomez,
Can I come back?
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gina Villagomez.
For number 6, yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, board members. Motion carries. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, board members. Moving on to item number 8, discussion and possible action to approve the job order contract procurement method for SSAISD Athletic Complex renovation. Mr. Isaguirre, your recommendation, sir?
We're on number
We're
seven.
number seven.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Number 7, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Discussion and possible action to approve the job order contract procurement method for West Campus High School Athletic Complex renovation. Mr. Isaguirre, your recommendation, sir?
There will be no action at this particular time to that item since we didn't approve, since that project was tabled. No procurement method needed.
Gotcha. At this time, the chair seeks unanimous consent to remove this item from consideration per the superintendent's recommendation. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered.
Number 7.
Yeah. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. Now we're on number 8, discussion and possible action to approve the job order contract procurement method for SSAISD Athletic Complex renovation. Mr. Isaguirre, your recommendation, sir.
Again, sir, to remove the item since there is no project for that procurement method either.
Thank you, Mr. Isaguirre. Hearing the superintendent's recommendation, the chair seeks unanimous consent to approve his recommendation to remove this item from consideration. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to item number 9, discussion and possible action to elect organized board officers pursuant to Texas Education Code. Give me 1 second here, just want to make sure I'm in the right spot. Texas Education Code, pursuant to Texas Education Code 11.061 and South San ISD Board Policy BDAA Legal and Local. We do not require a recommendation from the superintendent on this. At this time, the chair will consider any motions.
Mr. Rodriguez, I have a motion.
Ms. Prado?
I make a motion that we reorganize the board as follows. Mr. Ernest Ariano as president, Ms. Shirley Ibarra as vice president, and Ms. Gina Villagomez as secretary.
Second.
1 second, I'm writing this down. I have a motion by Ms. Prado to realign the board officers as Mr. Ariano as board president, Ms. Ibarra as the vice president, and Ms. Villagomez as the board secretary. Mr. Ariano, I believe, has seconded that. On this particular item, the board president, the presiding officer, will extend discussion for 5 minutes of 2 rounds. Is there any discussion? Ms. Alderete for 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of concerns here. I don't even know where to start. Number one, we just changed officers not too long ago. And that was a meeting that Ms. Prado herself came into and showed up so that the vote could be taken. Nobody else showed up but her. We had a training not too long ago where we were down in Galveston, and it taught us a lot, right? And if you showed up, then you know what it taught you. And one of those was to keep the kids first and not to have personal agendas. And, you know, I thought that by Mr. Ariano showing up, that it would change. I don't know. I just had hope that he had seen the light, right? That he had seen the light. We actually had a sit down, and where he shared with me that he was looking to be board president, and that the other side, meaning everybody else who showed up today, who hasn't been here since December, would not be happy that we were sitting down having this conversation. He shared with me that, so that basically tells you that they're being told what to do when they have that conversation with you. It concerns me that since December, everybody that has been recommended up here tonight has not shown up to a meeting. That essentially sent the district into default because they didn't show up and because we could not conduct district business. And now we're sitting here tonight with those very same people who have not shown up, asking to be officers. At the end of the day, this secretary means nothing to me, and if they want it, they can have it. But what I do expect is for you to do your job as you were elected, not what you were told to do. And there's plenty of evidence on that. I also have a problem that you're recommending somebody to be secretary with a signed affidavit that she does not live at the residence she says she does. The signed affidavit from the very homeowner that she has put on every single financial report that she has. And here you are recommending her to be board secretary. And I believe the rest of the conversation went kind of like this. Well, after this is done, whatever happens with her happens with her. It may not be technically an illegal vote because she has yet to be charged, but she will be because she's committing fraud and it's a federal crime. And everybody else up here knows it. And they're using her for her vote. And there was a meeting that stated that after her vote, who cares what happens to her? And she sits there with a smile and she leans back in her seat and they want her to be your board secretary. That's scary to me. It's scary to me that the state continues to allow this. It's very scary. And people sit up here and they smile. This one don't show up and wants to be a secretary. This one don't live here and want, oh wait, no, this is VP, this is secretary. This one don't live here and wants to be secretary. And we suspended our superintendent over the actions of the two at this very dais wants to be your board president. That's scary to me. It's scary to me. The children are not first in this district. You know what? And it's time that this community step up and hold these people accountable because the truth is the truth. She was recruited, and they do what they're told. And so do you. I had hope in you. I had faith in you. I spoke with, you know what? I might have supported you had you changed your tone. But you did not. And just as you said, with the other side out of your mouth, you're doing as you're told. And that is sad to me. You know exactly what would happen because you stated it to me had Ms. Prado been elected. You stated it to me. I mean, at least buck up and say you did it. Because they weren't here to hear it, but I was. I ain't got nothing to hide. You can laugh all you want to, but the truth is the truth. And it's very clear where people sit here tonight, and it's not with our children.
Ms. Alderete, your 5 minutes have expired.
Thank you.
Any other trustees wish to be recognized this first round? Mr. Flores for 5 minutes, sir.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President. With the slate of officers that were just announced, like the concerns that Ms. Alderete has, I'm sure the South San community has the same concerns. When there's attendance problems, missing meetings from January on to now or December on to now, from our vice president that for almost 2 years was missing meetings. And no fault of her own, but she missed meetings. Was that district underserved in her absence? Absolutely. Those were missed meetings. Was our district underserved? Were teachers underserved? Was our superintendent put in a catch-22 to make a decision? Absolutely, because of attendance problems. And so this whole list of slate have huge discrepancies. There's I would question their commitment to the board and to the needs of the district in the service of an officer. If it's going to be the president, if it's going to be vice president or the secretary, if you hopefully get her to sign your checks to show up or electronically out of Poteet. Okay? We're talking about somebody that has an illegal residence. And I'm going to tell you because I helped her in her campaign. I helped secure people and support. That was money from the attorney sitting here that went to her campaign. Funneled through Mr. Lopez to get her signs. All her campaign reports say 0. Even her initial says 0. I was there. Do I regret it? Now I do. She should have been trying to make the right decisions. Instead, she's a follower. We have the worst president in South San history coming back at violating the sacred ground of board president at the dais, right with the emblem right behind him, making deals with the suspended superintendent. I won't give him any credit and mention his name. But what kind of act is that when it's said here and it's totally discredited because nobody heard me, but I want to give my brother a job and I'll step down? Really? Dr. Puig, Mr. Adriano is the reason why he was suspended. We know that Ms. Villagomez has been turned into the Texas Rangers, so she is an illegal resident. District 1, I would ask for a recall, start a petition, go visit the 3125 address. I went, and a man, he was afraid to answer. I even went to Palo Alto Road out there, halfway to Poteet, to Ms. Villagomez's brother's house, just to see if her car was there. I was checking because I wanted it validated. So we have a leadership that's suspect, that probably has credibility questionable, and let it go to a vote. It is what it is. Board titles are not what we're in the business for. I'm in the business for the kids, and I was unanimously voted for that, and then I went unopposed for that, not because of what somebody's telling me to do, or what to do. That's all I have for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. At this time, any other board members wishing to be recognized for this first round? The chair will recognize himself last, so I'm affording board members the opportunity now to use their 5 minutes on this first round.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mr. Adriano, yes, sir, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Again, I am not going to just dignify Mr. Flores' remarks with my remarks, other than to say what you stated, that happened is not accurate. You can read into, you can do whatever you want. There's been several transcripts written that have been produced that don't support what you're saying. So, and I know what happened. I'm the one that was there. And there's a reason why the current superintendent is not here. And I'll just let everybody know that that was not the first time that has happened. It's amazing how all we do is waste 5 minutes attacking other board members. And with no proof, none whatsoever, just because a board member goes to the Texas Rangers and turns another board member in does not make that board member the judge and jury. There's no proof that where Miss Villagomez lives.
Right here, if you want it.
There does, no, that is a coerced thing. I know that for a fact.
How do you know?
So, because you were there, you were the one doing it. So, so here's the deal. We need to get to a position where we are not attacking each other anymore. And when the other point that I want to make is that it's a falsification, it's a false statement to say that the board members were not attending board meetings. The board members were attending board meetings virtually as allowed by Texas, by the state of Texas. It is not an individual board member's responsibility to create a quorum. It is the president's responsibility to create a quorum. If the president can't get a quorum, that's on the president. So, but to say that we were not present, you can see it and you can watch. We were there. I was there. I said present when my name was called at every single one of those meetings. So let's be clear. I was there. They were there for most of those meetings. So, for this round, I'm not going to say much more than that. I'm tired of the personal attacks. That's all that happens now at these meetings. It's just personal attacks. The board is supposed to be working as one body corporate, supposed to vote on items. If you don't agree with one of the items that was voted on, if it passes, it's your responsibility as a board member to support it, whether you voted yes or no. But just because you didn't get your way, you're gonna start personally attacking the other board members? That is not how this is supposed to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ariano. Any other board members wishing to be recognized in this first round? Hearing none, I will certainly recognize myself. I had a meeting with our appointed TA monitor, legal counsel, our interim superintendent, myself, which there's supporting correspondence, by the way. We're talking about facts, okay? Let's get, everything that comes out of my mouth right now, as always, is factual and can be proven and has supporting correspondence behind it. We sat in a meeting. So it's the board president's responsibility to babysit trustees. I think not. I don't do that. It's up to individual trustees to uphold their oath, do their duty to represent their community and represent what they feel is important to them and their community. In my opinion, these trustees have not done that. I sat in that meeting and I asked, what can I do as the board president to compel board members to attend a meeting so we can have a quorum to consider business? And that landed us in the last meeting where we were almost in a financial disaster, and they did this young man a disservice by forcing his hand, right? So I disagree with you, Ms. Ariano. It is not my responsibility to babysit trustees. It's in policy. You will prepare diligently for a meeting. You know what the Texas Open Meetings Act says, and it is my opinion that it was all a game, right? Let's say that we're on virtually, but they need 4 there. So we're not gonna have 4 there, so they can't move forward with business. That's what happened, right? And I think that's documented, and there were people that involved in those conversations, okay? There's no discrepancy on what's happening here. But I'll tell you what, in this first round, here's my biggest concern, other than the nominated board secretary over there, who's gonna have the tremendous responsibility of putting paper to pen, whether it's physical or electronically, to validate actions that this board takes. My biggest, most alarming concern is with Ms. Prado. She made the motion to appoint these people, these trustees, as your board officers. As tenured as that young lady is, and as tumultuous as her term has been, that's well documented, why the agency has stepped in at times, that is most alarming. That she is the one that feels like these trustees are entirely capable. These trustees, I have never observed more inept leadership in my entire life, okay? Mr. Flores is spot on in saying that Mr. Ariano, I don't understand where that's coming from other than, he does exactly what he's told. To be up here, caught on tape, and those invalid, made up, inaccurate transcripts that God and country has heard. But yet he votes to put the superintendent on paid administrative leave for the very act that he participated in. This is what Ms. Prado has nominated to be your board president. And there aren't personal attacks, okay? There is genuine, sincere, and alarming concern from the community at large about what's gonna happen here tonight with these board officers, right? And we all know what that is. It happened last year around the middle of the year last year, where this whole coup d'etat first kicked off. We're not here to serve kids. They are not here to serve kids. They are here to achieve a well-documented, with their actions and inactions, mind you, because inactions speak very clearly and very loudly, okay? All under the guise of the most inept legal counsel I have ever encountered. The advice that's well documented, okay? And I'm dying. I look forward to the day where the TA investigators put me in a room and ask me what is happening, what happened, what is going on. And it's not gonna go very well for some people in this room. So vote your conscience, vote what you think is in the best interest of this school district, because I'll tell you right now, and I've never ran or been shy from my confidence as a leader. Mr. Flores called him the worst board president in South San history. You know what? I'm gonna go out and say that I feel that I am the best leader that this district has had. Maybe not in its history, because I don't know how long, it's probably been here longer than me, but I can surely tell you that I've led by example. I've led from the front, and nobody in this room, nobody has ever known me during my tenure can tell me that I've never put kids first. I know how to carry myself. I know how to present myself. Most importantly, I know how to represent this district and our kids in the classroom and our teachers. We've all seen the disaster that took place this last time around. But the alarming thing is Ms. Prado, seasoned and tenured, always says how many years she's been here when she's gonna make a comment, making the actual motion in this instance. And that's my first 5 minutes. Anybody on the second round for the next 5 minutes? Ms. Aldrete? Yes, ma'am.
I'm glad that we see some smiles here today because, I mean, you don't see them at all, pretty much, ever. These people haven't shown up since December. December was our last regular called meeting. December. And after that, we have had 6 called meetings. And they know exactly what it takes to have a meeting. Oh, 7, I'm sorry. 7. They know what it takes. It takes 4 physical members in here. Forget what's going on up here. We have a district that needs to run its business. We've had 7 meetings, and not one of them took it upon themselves to make a quorum. But guess what? Today, Board of Officers is on the agenda, and look who's here. Front and center, big old smiles, rolling eyes, and smacking their lips. Some can't even keep their eyes open. But they're here. But since January, we've had this agenda filled with things that kids need, that our district needs, that our teachers need, that our educators and our facilities and our employees need, and they couldn't show up. You know what they showed up for? They showed up for a title change. That is alarming. That's alarming. We always ask ourselves, when is South San going to change? In fact, the deputy commissioner came in here himself and told us when the politics stop. We have a responsibility as a community to stop it. And people sit here and they roll their eyes and they laugh and you know, they have issues with what I'm saying. And I don't even say names and they're here you go. If the shoe fits, wear it. At the end of the day, it's the truth. They show up when they're told. They don't show up for the kids. We had a room full of kids with trophies and principals waiting to honor these children, and they couldn't show up. But you know what they showed up for? That title. So you can have it. You who don't live here, it's yours. That's not what I'm here for. And it wasn't coerced, sir. It's the truth. There were people in that room. I didn't meet at the Palm, and I have a big issue with you. Meeting at the Palm with our attorney, discussing boundary lines, and that that they were going to make sure it looked legal. I have a big issue with that. That they were going to gerrymander, and it hasn't been reported. I have a huge issue with that. I have a huge issue that you were a part of those conversations. That you met at the Palm downtown multiple times, and there's witness, and there's video. But you want to be board president? I have a huge problem. I'm tired of these backdoor deals. You know, Mr. Prado, a part of that meeting, multiple times. I have a huge problem. When does it end? On your campaign, you campaigned on making a change. But you've marched to the beat of the drum. You haven't changed anything. You've continued it. And that's a fact. It's a fact. And there's witness and there's proof. I didn't coerce anything. I don't need to. And it's all going to come out. And you're not going to be able to backtrack or backpedal. You had the opportunity to be honest and you didn't. And it's sad that the people up here who think that they're covering for them, they talk about you. They want to get rid of you. That's what they told him. No, I could care less where you're at. They had that conversation. You're a problem. You don't show up. Those were their words. Those were their words. Those were their words, not mine. Not mine. Those were their words.
Don't start.
Those were their words.
Ms. Alderete, if you
I
could
ain't the one,
focus the
girl.
general comments, please, ma'am.
At the end of the day, the truth is the truth. It has not been about the kids in this district, and it has not changed. It's been a political nightmare, and it continues. It continues. I'm done.
Your time has expired. Yes, ma'am. Second round, any board members?
I would like to be recognized.
Ms. Ibarra for 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
You like to pick on people. You like to pick on people that are not even in the district and threaten them at their jobs, making people. And my reasons of not showing up is because I've had death in my family. Something that you do not care about. That's why I have not been here sometimes to my meetings. But the meetings I have showed up has been virtually. So do not paint me out to be a bad person, because I've had dealt death after death. But y'all can just judge, and you want to say that you both right there wanted to take me out when I was going out with my mother passing. I had to be there to take care of my mother. I had to deal with other death in the family. And you want to judge and talk and tell people out here that we're not here for the students, we're not here for the staff, we're here for the kids, we're here for the teachers. But you want to paint us to be bad people that don't care about our kids and our teachers. We do, and I do, because I am from this district. I grew up, I went here, I played sports. So do not sit there and say, I don't care about this district, because I do. And I'm fed up with the way y'all are acting. That's all I gotta say about this.
Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. Any other board members on this second round? Mr. Flores for 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. And so in my last 5 minutes, I just wanted to talk again. And so what I wanted to say is that before, okay, so we have this slate and we have a president, for one, that tonight voted against your playgrounds principles. Actually, we have that slate of leadership that said no. That we tried to draw out for the public every effort that says it could be stretched out. We have a first rating on our finances. I don't think that the CFO would lead us into an area that would be, where we would be in desolation. No, he's telling us that we can make this happen. We could have voted yes for the playgrounds and all the other things that we needed, but this leadership told you no. This leadership is going to have a new president that can drive 4 hours to Galveston, Texas, wine and dine on the district's money, but can't drive half a mile to a board meeting. 7 or 8 meetings missed. This being the 8th, but 7 meetings missed. But boy, going to Galveston and eating some burgers on the district's dime, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to go, even if it's 3 or 4 hours away. I am the witness that sat at the Palm Restaurant. Prior to November 17th and the president's debacle, I had a great relationship with Mr. Ariano. Boy, we met at the Palm Restaurant with Mr. Sanchez about a half dozen times, and he confessed to me that he met him 6 or 12 more times. And in some of those meetings, Mr. Prado was there, and so was Connie Prado, and we were there. And they talked about issues like redistricting, gerrymandering. They talked about not supporting Shirley Ibarra, not supporting Gina Villa-Gomez. And they were in favor of it, and that we needed to look for other people. They don't want to hear that, but I was the witness. I was there. It's a shame that all this has come to this. Wherever the district goes with this and whatever the agency says, I'm supportive of whatever needs to happen. If it was a board of managers that had to come on board, that's the only way that Ms. Prado will get out of here. That's to be honest. But I have huge concerns with this leadership. When Mr. Arano violated the dais, I called him the next day. And I said, you know what, it wasn't right what you did. And he confessed, he did own up to it. But since that day, he said he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong, but the superintendent got suspended. So my question to his leadership is still the same. Attendance, saying no to the needs of the kids. This is where we're headed, folks. They want to stay there for the kids. Hey, you know what? My mother passed away too, and I had a very good job. And when she was dying, I said, Mom, you're number one to me, and I won't want to do anything else right now. In a family of 5 boys, I left my job at the Toyota plant so I could take care of my mom because she was number one. I didn't care what I was doing. I said, and if I was a board member then, I would have said, I'll step away and let somebody else properly represent the district, not be an absentee. That's how important my mom was to me. I didn't like her seeing her die of diabetes, but I made a choice. I did what I had to do. I understand the situation, but I understand the responsibilities now of a board member. My dad was a school board member back then. And I'm proud to say that I'm glad that I could be here. But this is, again, just the kind of leadership that's headed our way. Absenteeism, I would like to see them come to the next meetings physically. And then let's see how much of the crowd comes now to sign up for citizens to be heard, to address their illegal residents, to hopefully see the secretary here or to sign your checks, employees. That's all I have to say. Done.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Any other board members on this second round for 5 minutes? I will recognize myself last, so I'm affording the opportunity now.
Yeah.
Mr. Ariano for 5 minutes, yes, sir.
Thank you. So we keep talking about the slate that's gonna get voted on here in a few minutes, but I'm tired. Aren't you all tired of this? This is just nothing but attacks, and the people that are attacking, doing the main attacking, we're talking about the slate that's gonna get voted on. The ones that are doing all the attacking are the officers that are there now. That's been happening since December, quite honestly, and even before that. You know, to sit there and watch board members being attacked, having their video cut off, having their microphones cut off because they're challenging an officer is just wrong. And then all this personal attack that's going on right now is just, it's shameful. We do not need to be doing this anymore. I said that 20 minutes ago. But did anybody listen to what I said? No, they just went on attacking even more. And you know, to the point that these officers that are here have attacked the board members, they've attacked the monitor, they've attacked our attorneys. They've even attacked, they're not even listening to what Dr. Cottrell had said when he was here, standing right there, saying that it was requiring, it was that we had to allow the board monitor to have a set agenda at every single meeting. And he has not been able to come up to the podium and give us an update or give us what his feedback is. So, you know, and I don't appreciate the talking when I'm trying to talk here. I didn't talk when you were talking. So, so then we talk about going to Galveston and eating off the district's dime. I didn't remember Mr. Flores saying no when the dinner was coming, or Ms. Alderete. So, but I was there. Yes, I went to Galveston. Yes, there was a conference. Yes, there was some learning going on. That's the whole reason why we all went, apparently, supposedly. But now I'm to the point where I have to be careful where I'm driving because I'm being videoed everywhere I go, apparently. It's a crying shame. And that is the genesis of why we are here where we're at right now. We're at the precipice of having a board of managers. There was three trustees sent and I was one of them, that sent a letter to TEA asking for a TEA to go ahead and assign a conservator. And I think that this, what we're trying to do now is probably our last chance before that happens. If we can't make that happen, then we will have the next level, or maybe the level above that. So, but as long as we could keep attacking each other, and I'm sorry that I attacked, I don't mean to attack other trustees, but you can only take it for so long. So change is coming, whether other trustees like it or not. And it is for the betterment of the district. The children do, I haven't heard anything in these last 15 minutes after Mr. Rodriguez speaks for his 5 minutes, 30 minutes actually, total, that has anything to do with the kids. It's all personal attacks of other board members and the attorney. And it just has to stop. It has to stop, one way or the other. Instead of trying to help us build upon each other to make the district better, we're going after certain board members to make them quit so that they can solidify their power and not have anything come, have what's hopefully gonna happen. There have been text messages sent to trustees to try to get them to show up to meetings. What could be called bribery for certain board members to come to meetings. If you just do the right thing, then everybody shows up. If you have the right agenda items on there at the right sequence, then you will have everybody showing up and you will have everybody voting their conscience, yes or no.
Ms. Ariana, your 5 minutes have expired.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Prado, Ms. Villagomez, would you like your 5 minutes on this? No? Okay, I will certainly take mine. And I'll just end it this way, guys. I'm glad that Ms. Ariana brought it up. You know, you brought up the TA monitor, you brought up legal counsel. I didn't request this agenda item, so we're having discussion around it because you guys requested it. So that's the way it works, right? Board members are here. I mean, you just commended us for debating and having discussion, and I mean, this is all part of it, right? And the community has a right to know where their elected representatives stand. You know, I had a meeting with Mr. Ariano, and this is not an attack. It's just some insight on what I deem just his inability to lead, right? He's a follower in a leadership position is what it is, and that's the worst kind of leader that we can have in this school district. I met a total of 5 times with Mr. Ariano, 3 times at his request. The first 2 times were in the superintendent's office after he got elected. And I knew then that he was not capable. I knew then that he didn't belong. Because you know what he said to me? He said, I said whatever I had to say to get elected. If that's not the biggest red flag that you will ever hear from someone in a leadership position, I don't know what is. I said what I had to say to get elected. We had a follow-up because we wanted to try to bridge the differences, right? 3 times after board meetings, he asked to meet with me back there. What I thought was a good faith effort, right? And me being the biggest downfall, anybody who knows me personally, my biggest downfall, my biggest hindrance is I just keep giving people the benefit of the doubt. I want to see the good in people. I want to give you every opportunity, but only be misled every single time. And now here we are. Requesting the itemized invoices from legal counsel. It's like he was Mr. Ariano's personal attorney while he was the board president. I mean, we're talking $40,000 and above. Call after call after call after call after call. Instead of collaborating with the superintendent, which is what we were supposed to do, we want to talk about the TA monitor and policy and all that good stuff in due time, right? Because there's a process for everything in due time. But I know the mission right now that needs to get accomplished is to change these board officers so we can yield that political power, right? So we can get the right puppets under the puppet master to execute, right? It's unfortunate, and now more than ever, I take great pride in the trait that I have as a father, as a dad, to raise leaders and not followers. I tell my kids every day when I drop them off, be a leader today, don't be a follower. Now more than ever, today as I sit here, I take pride in that I'm raising leaders and not followers. It's a travesty what's gonna happen here tonight. It's unfortunate. And speaking of the monitor, you know, Ms. Ariana wants to paint this picture like it's all gonna be peaches and cream and the sun's gonna come out. And I've asked, there's correspondence where I'm asking, hey, what's the next step? When can we meet? We gotta get back on track. You're here to help us. Nothing yet. So until we know what that is, how are we on the path to rectifying those sanctions, those governance concerns, right? Which I agree that we have. The last thing, how I'll wrap it up is, you probably won't see me up here as your board president after tonight, because they also want to amend policy, right? They want to amend policy, just like you see at the highest levels of government, right? To kind of prevent things from happening the way other people that want to do right from happening. So there's a policy change here as well that's coming up, because they want to tie our hands. So this is the last meeting that I'll probably chair as your board president, and I'll tell you now that it's been my greatest honor to be here in this position and to serve the staff, the community, the kids, and work alongside our superintendent and our trustees most of the time. Up until the past year has been the worst. But it's been my honor to sit in this chair. I led with integrity, with honor, and I led by example, full transparency. And each one of you that I've talked to here or online have known that you can always come to me for the kids. And I'm gonna give it to you straight. And I hope that when this leadership changes, I really do hope that the sun rises. I really do hope. I really do hope that finally our TEA monitor gets going on, hey, what do we gotta do? Let's meet, let's have these conversations, let's put the plan together. We wanna help you guys get back on the right path. I really do hope that happens. Because at the end of the day, it's the kids in the classroom. It's why we get up every morning to do. That's why we show up every night, for the kids in the classroom. So it's been my honor and my privilege, and I will support until I can do so no longer. Having said that, there is a motion. There is a second. Michelle, we can have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Gina Villagomez,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Hell no.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
No.
Stacy Alderete.
No.
Motion carries. Mr. Ariano?
Everybody's in place? Okay. All right, so thank you, board members. At this time, I'd like to call a 5-minute recess before the rest of the board business resumes. And the time is 8:13.
I don't.
Okay, the board is back from recess. The time is 8:20. So at this time, I'd like to make a point of personal privilege, and have a couple of remarks and give the monitor an opportunity to say, to give his remarks for today.
Point of order?
Mr. Flores,
Yeah, that's not on the agenda.
it's a point of personal privilege.
It's not on the agenda.
So-
We're supposed to be on number 10.
No, I'm doing a point of personal privilege, so I have the ability. Mr. Sanchez, can you elaborate?
Dr. Saavedra present, as you recall, Dr. Cottrell requested that the board allow him the opportunity at every meeting to present. And if you want, as I understand what your point of personal privilege is you want to give him an opportunity to address the board. Is that right?
That is correct.
That would be consistent with the TA's request.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I just want to say, all right, thank you for the explanation. I have a hard time believing you, Mr. Sanchez. You're always lying to us.
Okay, so thank you. Okay, so before I bring you up, Dr. Saavedra, let me just say that, you know, rather than dwell on the past, let us as a board corporate embark on working together as one body to move our great district toward a path that is to the benefit of all the precious children and families in the district, no matter where they reside. Make no mistake by thinking that this will, make no mistake by thinking that this will be easy. No one can do this alone, but together we will move mountains. The deputy commissioner, as I had stated before, of TEA, was here not too long ago and directed the board in person to add an agenda item to all board meetings to allow the monitor to have his remarks. It was not an option. Unfortunately, this meeting again does not account for this. Now, that being said, I'm utilizing the point of personal privilege to provide the monitor the ability to make remarks at this time, if he so chooses. Dr. Saavedra?
Thank you, Mr. Adriano. Ladies and gentlemen, I started in public education in 1972. This is 2022. This is my 50th year involved somehow in public education. And I have to tell you folks, I've never seen more deplorable board action or activity that I just witnessed a little while ago. I'm hopeful that with these changes, one, the board having a quorum that you've not had for 2 months, and with the spirit of 7 board members wanting to work together, hopefully, that maybe you turn this thing around. But at this point, it's hard for me to imagine that right now. And frankly, I think it's hard for your community to imagine that right now. One of the things that's reported in the most recent financial report that came from the rating agencies that I think was reported in January 2022 is that the population in this community within your school district is growing, but your enrollment is dropping. There's a reason for that, and that reason could very well have been the behavior that this board demonstrated to its community a little while ago. It's got to change, folks. It's got to change. This community doesn't want to turn over this school district to the state. I can assure you that. I know of no community in this state that wants to turn over their school district to the state. That's your responsibility as elected board members to make decisions for this school district. But I can tell you that if the type of behavior that was demonstrated earlier, a little while ago, is the type of behavior that this community will continue to receive from you as a board, then yes, the community is better turning it over to the state. It was very deplorable behavior that was demonstrated by this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saavedra. So next item on the agenda is closed executive session.
Mr. Ariano, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, number 10.
Yeah.
We have number 10 on decision and possible action. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Ariano, at this time, the item was placed on the agenda by myself and Ms. Ibarra, and with Ms. Ibarra's approval at this time, I would like to table the item.
Ms. Ibarra signals yes. So at this time, then, item number 10. So do we need to vote on this? We do,
No.
right?
Just table.
Okay, so
Or
yeah,
pull.
no, do we have a motion?
I can pull the item. I think, Ms. Ibarra, if we pull the item for a future date, is that okay? So we'll just pull the item.
Okay. So we're just pulling the item now.
Point of order, Mr.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rodriguez.
I appreciate Ms. Prado and Ms. Ibarra wanting to pull the item, but I think the appropriate way to do it is, once the agenda is published, it belongs to the board, right? So there has to be a motion and a vote to table it. The removal of an agenda item from board members comes before the agenda is published.
So, well, before you, let's just get legal's opinion on that.
Since Ms. Prado and Ms. Ibarra are the ones that authored the two-person memo placing this item, your board policy says that the individual trustee can withdraw their own item. But if you want to vote on it, that's fine. I mean, it's going to have the same effect.
Okay, so let's just, to be safe, let's just make a motion, and then we'll.
Okay, then I make a motion to table the item number 10.
Very good. I have a motion to
Second.
table item number 10, seconded by Ms. Ibarra. Discussion, one round, 3 minutes. Hearing none. Ms. Michelle, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Stacy Alerete. I got a new voting, sorry.
That way they know how to vote, okay. Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes?
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes,
Genevieve Gomez.
Yes.
motion carries. So before we go on to the next item, one thing I want to make sure, make clear that the chair will no longer tolerate one-off remarks to other board members or just in general. Let's keep our comments to the agenda items at hand, please. Thank you. At this time, see, Ms. Ibarra, Ms. Alerete, please, I've already said that. So let's the snickering and the comments, let's keep that to a minimum. Okay, so next item on the agenda is closed executive session. The board will return to open session and take action, appropriate action, if any, on items discussed in closed session. No action will be taken in closed session. Further, board members are reminded that all items discussed in closed session will remain confidential so as to avoid liability to the district. The board will consider and discuss the following items. Closed meeting pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Item number 1, discussion regarding superintendent contract status, suspension and possible termination. Item number 2, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, Chief Academic Officer. Item number 4, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, Executive Director of Human Resources. Number 5, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, Director of Facilities. Item number 6, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, Director of Communications. Item number 7, 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding the TEA INV invoice 2021-08-094 and responding to same. Item number 8, 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.074, personnel, 551.082, certain school board deliberations, level 3 grievance of David Davis. And item number 9, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, Executive Director of Student Support Services. The board is now in closed session and the time is 8:31. She's still attacking her. we're back in executive, we're back from executive session. Time is 9:31. Item, discussion and possible action, reconvene from executive session for action relative to items considered during executive session. Mr. Izagiri? Item number.
I believe item number 1 would be for the board.
Does anybody have any motion for item number 1?
I make a motion. I
Mrs.
make a
Prado.
motion that we table item number 1 for a future meeting.
Item number 1, just to be clear, item number 1, discussion regarding superintendent contract status, suspension, and possible termination. So Mrs. Prado's motion is to table
Yes.
for a future meeting. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ibarra. Any discussion? One round, 3 minutes? Hearing none. Ms. Michelle, vote on number 1.
Yes, sir. Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
No.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Abstain.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Genevieve Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 2, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074. I believe Mr. Zagida.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a recommendation for assistant principal to Price Elementary, Ms. Christian Sanchez. Do I name both of them at the same time, independently, legal? Okay.
What's up to him? Recommendation.
Again, recommendation is for the assistant principal at Price Elementary for Ms. Christian Sanchez. And then next item would be to recommend to void staff members probationary contract due to failure to meet certification requirements in the name of Mr. Steven Olivares.
Thank you, Mr. Izaguirre. Hearing the recommendation, the chair is hearing any motions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Dr. Saavedra. Yes, sir.
To hire the assistant principal without identifying the assignment, because at that point, you won't be able to reassign the assistant principal ever under the certified system.
Good point.
Very good. Okay, let me amend, my recommendation to hire Ms. Christian Sanchez as an assistant principal. And to recommend to void staff members probationary contract due to failure to meet certification requirements for a Mr. Steven Olivares.
Hearing the recommendation, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Mrs. Alderete.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as discussed by the superintendent.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ibarra. Anybody have anything? Okay. We have the vote, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Genevieve Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 3, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, Chief Academic Officer. Mr. Izaguirre.
Yes, Mr. President, my recommendation is to recommend Ms. Millicent Marcha to Chief Academic Officer.
I'd like to make a motion.
We have a motion on the floor by Ms. Alderete.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as presented by the superintendent.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion, second by Mrs. Prado. Any discussion? Item number 3. No discussion. Roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
No.
Connie Prado, Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Genevieve Gomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is item number 4, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, Executive Director of Human Resources. Mr. Zagita.
Yes, I'd like to make the recommendation of Mr. Max Flores for Executive Director of Human Resources.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
We have a motion. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as discussed by the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Alderete. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Flores. Discussion. No discussion. Roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Gina Villagomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 5, discussion concerning personal matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, subsection 551.074, Director of Facilities. Mr. Zagita.
Yes, sir, I'd like to table this recommendation for our next available meeting.
Okay. Do we have a motion to support?
Mr. Adena,
Yes, yes,
you
sir.
don't need a motion. He's
Oh,
withdrawing
he's
the
pulling.
recommendation.
Disregard, he's pulling. So, item number 5, no action taken on that. He's pulling it from the agenda. So we're moving on to item number 6, discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, Director of Communications. Mr. Zagita.
Yes, I'd like to make the recommendation of Ms. Alexis Castillo, or Director of Communications.
Thank you, sir. Hearing the recommendation, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Ms. Alderete?
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented by the superintendent.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ibarra. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes.
Gina Villagomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 7, there's no action to be taken. It was a briefing. Item number 8, 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.074, personnel. 551.082, certain school board deliberations, level 3 grievance of David Davis. Mr. Zagita?
Mr. Adena,
Yes, sir.
I would ask that the board consider placing this item at the next available agenda so that I can inform Mr. McCormick, who is Mr. Davis's attorney, to be
Okay.
present and allow him to appear virtually if he so wishes.
Okay, so we're moving that to next week then. Do we need a vote for that? Yes, okay, so then we have a recommendation to move this, from the attorney to move this to a special call meeting, to move it.
Can attorneys make a motion?
Yeah. Oh, I said that, sorry, yeah. So, do we have a motion on item number 8?
I make a motion.
Mrs.
I make a motion
Prado.
that we table item number 8 on the level 3 grievance of Mr. David Davis to the next available agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anybody second that? We have a motion.
A second.
Second by Ms. Villagomez. Discussion on number 8. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
No.
Connie Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
No.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.,
Yes,
Gina Villagomez.
Yes.
the motion passes. And item number 9, discussion concerning personal matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, Executive Director of Student Support Services. Mr. Izagita, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Board President, I'd like to make the recommendation of a Mr. Joe Gaines for Executive Director of Student Support Services.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Chair will entertain any motions. I'll set the I'll do the motion to to approve as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Second by Ms. Villagomez. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete.
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez.
Yes.
Connie Prado.
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra.
Yes.
Homer Flores.
Yes.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.
Yes.
Gina Villagomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we're on number 2, discussion possible action. Possible action regarding censure of District 2 trustee for actions that occurred at the meeting on November 17th, 2021.
I'll make a
Chair will
motion.
entertain a motion, yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we table item number 2 and item number 3.
Okay, we have a motion to table items number 2 and 3 by Mrs. Prado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Villagomez. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call. Ms. Martinez?
Gina Villagomez. Oh, wait, I apologize. Stacy Alderete.
I was like, no.
Gilbert Rodriguez.
No.
Connie Prado.
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra.
Yes.
Homer Flores.
No.
Ernesto Ariano Jr.
Yes.
Gina Villagomez.
Yes.
Motion passes. So the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Ms.
Second.
Sorry. Ibarra. No, that was Estrada. Second by Ms. Ibarra. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned at 9:43 PM. Thank you, everybody. Okay, go home. We're good. Let them start.